Welcome back, everybody, to the third segment here of Bowl Game Radio on the San Diego Bowl Game Media Network. I'm Mark Neville with Bruce Binkowski. And a reminder that Bowl Game Radio is brought to you in part by San Diego County Credit Union. It's not big bank banking, it's better. And MJE Marketing. Creative, connected, and always curious. Visit mjemarketing.com.
And we're talking about San Diego's bowl games, the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. Thursday, December the 26th, a team from the Mountain West against a team from the Mid-American Conference. We still don't have any idea who's going to be in the game, but we know they're going to be a great matchup. And bring the family. UT San Diego Family 4-pack, 4 plaza-level tickets, 4 hot dogs, 4 sodas, and a game program for just $170.
That is an amazing deal.
It's a great
and
deal.
those tickets, they're right there. The field level seats were in the west end zone,
where you can great view of the fireworks.
Exactly.
And $1 from each ticket sold, not only from the Family 4-pack, for every ticket sold goes to Make-A-Wish San Diego. So to order your tickets, visit poinsettiabowl.com or call 619-285-5061. The San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl, Thursday, December the 26th. Then 4 days later, Monday night football at Qualcomm Stadium. It's the 36th annual National University Holiday Bowl, America's most exciting bowl game. And over the last 35 years, we've had some amazing game. And the games kick off at 7:15, Pac-12, Big 12, tremendous pregame and halftime pageantry you don't want to miss. Tickets are on sale. Go to holidaybowl.com or call 619-283-5808.
So a little earlier in the show, we talked with Coach Ted Tollner about the Pac-12. Well, let's jump in now to the Big 12. And joining us on the phone is Jake Trotter. Jake covers the Big 12 for ESPN.com. He spent 4 seasons covering Oklahoma football for the Oklahoman before joining ESPN.com in 2011. I should also say you can follow Jake Trotter at Jake_Trotter. And on ESPN's Big 12 blog. Jake, welcome to the program. You're on with Bruce Binkowski and Mark Neville.
Bruce, Mark, how you guys doing?
Good, Jake. This is Bruce. Now, this is how we see the overall picture for the National University Holiday Bowl sitting here today on Thanksgiving weekend, and want your take on what we think. We think that our finalists for our game will probably be Kansas State, Texas Tech, or Texas, unless there's some monumental upsets. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree, although I think it's unlikely that Texas would fall to the Holiday Bowl, because you'd have, let's say, the Big 12 takes Oklahoma State. If everything pans out as expected, Fiesta Bowl would take Oklahoma State. That would leave Baylor in the Cotton, right, Oklahoma in the Alamo, and I think the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl would take Texas at that point, leaving Kansas State or Texas Tech as the two choices.
So you're saying you think the Buffalo Wild Wings would take the winner of the Texas Tech game over a 7-5 Kansas State?
I actually think that I think that's true. You don't know kind of if Texas were to lose the next two, that would make them obviously a lot less attractive than as an 8-4 team. But I just, in terms of likely scenarios, I think the Buffalo Wild Wings would take a 8-4 Texas over Kansas State.
Okay, all right, makes sense.
And what do you think is going to transpire with Mac Brown there at Texas?
That's a great question. In these next two games, I think will be telling to some degree. If they, for example, lose on Thanksgiving to Texas Tech and they get routed by Baylor, I think that would be a very bad sign for Mac going into the bowl season and the off season. But if they beat Tech and then who knows, upset Baylor, I mean, it would be very difficult, I think, for new athletic director Steve Patterson to make a move at that point. Texas would be co-Big 12 champs, going to a pretty good bowl game with a chance to reach 10 wins. You don't see too many coaches get fired after 10-win seasons. So I think the other part of the equation, too, is who can you go get? Who are you going to be able to get that's better than Mac Brown? It doesn't look like Nick Saban's going to be a viable possibility. So what else is out there, and do you feel like you can make a dramatic improvement for the future of Texas football with that next coach? I think those are things that Patterson is going to have to weigh out in the next couple of months.
I also wonder if that's something that the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl is going to be looking at too. If they do let Mac Brown go before the bowl game, that might change everything as they look at the fan support for the program.
Right, and the other way to look at that is, well, this they're going to try to send Mac Brown out with a bang. If he resign, let's say he resigned between the season finale and then the bowl game, that you could play it another way too. So I you're right. There is a scenario in which Texas, I guess, could fall to the Holiday Bowl, but I think it would take the Longhorns really bottoming out here in the next 2 weeks, and maybe the divorce between Texas and Mac Brown getting uglier than I think it would.
We're talking with Jake Trotter from ESPN.com. This is Bruce Binkowski along with Mark Neville. And Jake, as you look at the future games heading into Selection Sunday, Baylor got pretty well beat up against Oklahoma State. So could you see a scenario where Oklahoma State finished 11-1, Baylor beats TCU, and Texas finishes 11-1? Do you see them both going to the BCS under that scenario?
I actually do not. And it could depend. It depends on what else happens. You look at the Orange Bowl, which would be the BCS Bowl at large possibility for Baylor in that scenario, and there's also Wisconsin sitting right there. And as you guys know, the Orange Bowl has agreements with the Big Ten going forward. Wisconsin travels really well. You look at their losses; they would have lost at Ohio State. There's no shame in that. And then in that fluky game against Arizona State earlier in the season. So I think Wisconsin would be a very attractive BCS Bowl at-large possibility. And just reading the tea leaves, I think the Orange Bowl would be leaning toward Wisconsin over Baylor. But if the Badgers lost to Penn State this weekend, maybe Baylor is that next team that the Orange Bowl takes a good look at. They play an exciting brand of football. They're going to score a lot of points. And to bowl games, that's an attractive quality, especially for television numbers. A lot of people would watch Baylor play football because of their style of play.
You bet. And of course, from the National University Holiday Bowl standpoint, we like your scenario that only one team goes up.
Gives
out
us
of the
selections.
Big 12. Gives us a great selection. So we know we're going to get a pretty good team out of either Kansas State or Texas or Texas Tech winner.
So, right, Texas Tech, that was a team that was ranked 10th in the country at one point, and their slide here late in the year has had more to do with who they've played than the fact that they're just falling apart, like they have the previous two seasons. They played Oklahoma State, they played Baylor, a really hot Kansas State team, and then Texas here to close out the year. And with Cliff Kingsbury and the energy he's brought that program, they're going to score points too. I think they would be a fun team to watch. And then with Bill Snyder in Kansas State, there's something you can sell there as well, especially if you get Oregon, Kansas State-Oregon rematch from the Fiesta Bowl last year.
Now, Oklahoma State does have a formidable foe in front of them in order to get that Big 12 championship in Oklahoma. I was actually in Manhattan last weekend for the Oklahoma-Kansas State game, and while Kansas State did find a few weaknesses in their secondary, Oklahoma is a pretty powerful football team, and I don't think it's a walk in the park for Oklahoma State. How about you?
No, I agree. Oklahoma State looked terrific against Baylor. They played incredibly well, but it's hard to believe that they would play at that level 2 games in a row. And then also, the Sooners, with the exception of 2001, played pretty well against Oklahoma State. I think they've won every game except that 2011 one going back to 2003. So they definitely have had success in the series. Last year had the dramatic comeback there in the fourth quarter and overtime to win. And they seem to have found their quarterback, which has really been what has held this team back this year. Trevor Knight played extremely well at Kansas State, both running the ball and passing the ball. And I think if he plays that way in Stillwater, the Sooners are going to be in the game in the second half.
All right, we're not going to put you on the spot, but we're going to ask you who's going to win. So let me run down the games, and you just give me your quick answer.
Okay.
I know the answer to this one. Kansas State at Kansas.
Jayhawks. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Okay. All right. Oklahoma.
I actually picked Kansas to beat Iowa State. It looked ridiculous.
No, you did not. Come on.
That was 35-0.
But I did pick them to beat West Virginia, so I was riding the wave.
So do you think it might be a tight game, or do you think Kansas State will have an easy time of it?
Kansas State, easy time.
Okay, so K-State beats Kansas. That's good for the National University Holiday Bowl. Okay, Oklahoma State. Who's going to win it?
If I had to pick today, Oklahoma State.
Okay, all right. Baylor and TCU.
Baylor.
Baylor and Texas.
Baylor.
Okay. Texas versus Texas Tech. Now, be careful with your answer.
This is a big one for us. This is a big game for the National University Holiday Bowl.
Yeah, and this is the toughest one to pick. And I haven't, I'm actually sitting down to do my predictions later today.
Oh, we're getting a preview here.
Yeah, you're getting a preview. I will tell you that I am leaning toward Texas in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But, you look at the way Tech played against Baylor, and you take away the turnovers, and maybe that game's a little bit closer. Tech got up to that 27 start. I just think in Austin, final home game, Texas, with the exception of the Oklahoma State game, has played pretty well down the stretch. Texas Tech's defensive line is beat up. I think the Longhorns have success running the ball and capitalize off a couple of turnovers. I think that's the way I would frame the game today. Watch me pick Tech on the Big 12 blog. So maybe I should do that. That way I have it both ways.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
In fact, Jake, so going back to your opening statement, you were saying that we're probably looking at a pick between Texas Tech and Kansas State, according to you, from your earlier statements.
I think so, unless like the scenario you guys presented, Texas drop these next two games and the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl win a different direction.
Well, let's say Buffalo Wild Wings does go the direction of Texas. We're still looking at a pretty good spot here because you got Kansas State, who's would be winners of 5 of their last 6 games, and Texas Tech, like you said, they started 7-0. They were number 10 in the country. They've just played an unbelievably difficult schedule. They're not a bad team by any stretch.
Not at all. And you look at what they have done given their quarterback situation. I mean, how many teams in America or how many programs in America would be able to do what Kingsbury has done with 2 true freshman quarterbacks, rotating them? They have had a good offense all year, even with, the questions and inexperience at quarterback. Davis Webb and Baker Mayfield have both had their moments. I think there's an outside chance that Michael Brewer gets some run here down the stretch. So there's a lot to be interested in this team in Texas Tech, and I think a lot of people are excited. It's not even though they have lost 4 in a row here. There's a lot of excitement still surrounding that program with what Cliff Kingsbury has done, both on the field and then off the field in recruiting.
So that was actually going to be my follow-up question to you. Bruce is actually going to be at the Texas Tech game on Thanksgiving. But you think that the fan support there is strong and that they're not deterred by this 4-game losing streak?
No, I don't think so at all. And that's just the sense I get from get the emails and the tweets I get from Texas Tech fans. And I had a chat this week, and still had a lot of Tech fans interested in kind of what they look like for next year and what they're doing in recruiting and why Jason Morrow wasn't a Mackey Award finalist. So there's still a lot of interest. I think people are tuned in. There's some disappointment that they weren't able to win a couple more games here down the stretch, but there's no doubt there's a different feeling with this November swoon versus the last two. I think this has been more of a product of who they've played instead of just a team collapsing down the stretch like the last 2 years they did in the Tommy Tuberville era.
Jake Trotter, ESPN.com. Thanks for joining us with your Big 12 preview. We'll watch with great interest the games this weekend as we head into December and the bowl season. So thanks for joining us on Bowl Game Radio.
Yeah, and have a happy Thanksgiving, Jake.
Thanks, guys. You guys too.
All right, thank you. And you can follow Jake Trotter at Jake_Trotter and on ESPN's Big 12 blog, Jake Trotter with ESPN.com. And you're listening to Bowl Game Radio
on the mighty 1090.